No audio. Hello, hello. I want to welcome all of you to another hour of truths, information, knowledge, and mystery. And some of this stuff you will hardly ever find anywhere else except right here on the Universal Consciousness Show. My name is Aage, and I'm one of the hosts, and I'm sitting here in the southwest of the United States where it's still nice and warm. Not hot, but nice and warm, and I like it. And my co-host is Diana. She's over in Germany, some 7,000 miles away from me. Hello, hello, Diana. Are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Okay, and well, let's have some fun here. And for those of you that like to listen to this show afterwards, you can find it quite a few places on the internet, in the media, Facebook, and a lot of other places. And also, I am archiving this at one of our website, and I'll give you that one. That's www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And keep a pen and a little piece of paper ready, because we just might find something that you might want to write down and keep for later, and contacts and so on. And also, for those of you that know somebody that is not at the computer right now but they got a telephone, then you can give them a call and tell them to call in at this phone number, 701-719-9704. And that is it's a good number to listen live of what we're going to be talking about today. All right. I when Diana and I started this thing out here, oh gosh, it's been over a year now, hasn't it? Yeah,
More, yeah, more than a year.
man, oh man, time's going fast when you're having fun. Okay, we were talking about having an international show, and I think we've actually done that. We got this Norwegian guy here, living in the southwest of the United States, and that's me. Then we get a Romanian lady living in Germany, and that's you, Diana.
Yeah.
And that, and then we got a guest tonight, or today, or this morning, whichever part of the world you're in. He's an American living in Australia. How much more international can we get than that, huh? Well,
Right.
I actually we have Shannon Panzo. Dr. Shannon Panzo, PhD, returning to the show. He runs the ZOXProTraining mind development course. And it's a mind development course that I used to travel around the United States 20 some 5, 7, or maybe more years ago teaching. And that's why it has a very special uh, tone in my heart, because I know what it can do. And Shannon is a tremendous mind. He's an expert in brain management. He teaches mental photography. And boy, that term needs a little bit of explanation later on. It's a new one to many people. And also, he teaches the practical use of photographic memory. Now, we've all heard the term, but very few people know what it is. And we're going to find out today and how actually we also can develop doing this. And he's a mentor to many. He's a sought-after speaker and an author and a professional coach to both business and private people. And like I said, he's an American. He's living in Australia, and he spends his time teaching people how to make their life better by teaching them how to use both the brain and the mind as it was intended to be used, not just the way the school system teaches us. You know, that was a slip of the tongue there, but it was a well-intended one, and maybe we can talk about that too. So welcome to the show here, Shannon.
Hey there, Augie. How's it
Hey,
going?
oh, it must be good. Nobody is complaining. How about yourself?
Oh, well, at this time of the morning, I nothing to lose sleep over. I'll tell you that. This is a great
Yeah.
place to be.
Yeah, and I tell you what, folks, we are doing a little bit of time travel here today because right now in Tucson, Arizona, I have 6 minutes after 11 o'clock on Friday. But Shannon, tell us what day you have and what time you have.
Well, it's 5 o'clock on Saturday morning, 5 a.m.
5 a.m. on Saturday. So you're a day ahead of us.
Oh yeah. Well, that means I get the new. That means I get all the news early, right?
Well, you're going to find out stuff before we do it. All right. Okay. And yeah, Diana, yeah, it's all yours here. You had something there too.
Yes, yes. Hello, hello, Shannon, and thank you so much for being with us today. And I want to please you for the listener that don't know you yet. Could you please tell us your story in a nutshell and how did you end up doing what are you doing?
Well, thanks for the nice little question there, Diana. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can satisfy. That's actually quite an interesting question there. You see, uh, back in 1986, I was actually working at an explosives factory. Gee, that's a bit away from what I do today. I was working at an explosives factory, and uh, what transpired was I attended this training myself. Richard Welch taught it, and I started using it every day. Of course, I was very due diligent of using it every day, and about 5 months in, I had developed my awareness and perception of the world around me to a whole new level. I had developed my ability to program and literally see things that others just weren't seeing happening. That's how well my awareness had really skyrocketed that way. And I actually had a premonition. This premonition came to me very strongly, and the premonition told me to be careful that I was in danger. Now I had no reason to understand where this danger was actually coming from. Um, Through assumption, I assumed that it had to do with maybe the explosives factory I was working with. And so as I was going along, I kept having this premonition. So I geared up with better safety equipment than what they usually issue. Uh, excuse me. They gave me these squishy little ear things to protect my hearing. Well, that wasn't going to work very well, uh, especially in a environment that you were dealing with explosives. So I brought in my range muffs from home. And so I geared myself up, just because it's the right thing to do. And uh, at that time in my life, especially dealing with explosives, you want to do everything by the book and not make any mistakes. Well, that's exactly what I was doing, everything by the book, doing my job, and that still didn't prevent what was about to happen. So this premonition allowed me to make some arrangements to take some steps physically, mentally, spiritually, uh, in order to deal with whatever was about to come. And so again, all those things were handled up front. And since I was on the graveyard shift about 3 o'clock in the morning, I go and I'm working on this machine, and they had just loaded the powder. It was loaded full, and I was working on this machine. I open up the primary boundary, and the machine blows up on me.
Mm.
And I caught this huge fireball straight out of the machine. The blast was so vicious that it took this machine and literally leveled it. It dropped at least a foot, maybe more than that. The steel doors on the back of the room blew off, literally blew off their hinges. And at the same time that all this was taking place, I had an out-of-body experience on top of it all.
Oh, man.
So here I am, basically in a juxtaposition. I'm standing at the machine. I'm also over in the corner of the room watching this all take place. Now, I tell my body to walk out the other door, the door that opens inward, because that one didn't go anywhere. And I open up the door and I go outside into the next room, and at that point I'm back in. Okay, so I had this really strange experience of being out of body and instructing my own self what to do. Then, at the moment of the explosion, when the explosion happened, and I can only lay credit to, it was probably my guardian angel that was standing in between me and the actual blast, because what I actually felt and what I actually experienced is not typical. It felt like a warm breeze blew over me. That's all I felt. And for a person to have this happen, I walked away without a scratch. Whenever I got out there, it was just like out of the old comic strips. The smoke was rolling off my body. I was right in the middle of all this, and the managers of the company, the firemen that attended afterwards, they all said the same thing. How did you survive it? You shouldn't have survived this. How could this even happen? Now, of course, the company is not about to. The company would have been very perturbed if I would have brought up about divine intervention, guardian angels.
Yeah.
They really wouldn't understand those things. Okay, this is an explosives factory. Guardian angels, where's their name badge? Okay.
Yeah, they don't go to those places.
Right. Okay, so I ended up escaping doom. It saved my life. Now this is 5 months after I had been involved in using this every day. So I was so prepared for this event, whatever it was going to be, that whenever it actually happened, it was over. It was done. There was no stress involved. Other people would have been, falling over, so to speak.
Was anybody else in there that got hurt, or was it just you there at the time?
I was the only person in there.
Oh.
At that moment, I was the only person in there. There were people that, would come and go, but when that all happened, I was the only person there. And of course, there was the normal blame that others were putting, towards things and such. So I didn't buy into that. But since the event was over, I went back to work. Well, no one could stand to be around me because I had this burnt metallic smell, because the explosive, which is 100 times more sensitive to static electricity than hydrogen gas, was zirconium potassium perchlorate. And that is used quite frequently in automotive airbags, which that's what we were building. And this explosion I was involved with should have ripped me apart, but it didn't. And I'm here to, basically I walked away from it. Lucky? I don't think luck had much to do with it. There was a lot of things that happened before then, and there was a lot of things that happened right during that event. Things that are not easily explained. Now, because of the severe nature of what happened, I was actually right after that. I was given the opportunity to take position with brain management, which is run by Richard Welch. I was given the opportunity to take position with the company, and I felt really a need to help at getting this out to people. This is so important because it had just saved my life. Of course, it's important. And so this has been a big life changer for me as to why I got involved in the first place, especially at an administrative level, but also how I then kept doing this on and on and on for many, many years. And since 1986, I've been involved with the company, and then I finally am in this position that I'm in today, pretty much running the show, so to speak.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good that can come of this, and people need to really wake up to themselves and say, look, there is something out there that has been niggling me. I can't really place my finger on it. Oh, gee.
Yeah.
You can do these things? Yes, you can. And I'm one of many, many miracles out there.
I think that once people start developing that part of the mind, and I'm saying that part of the mind because there is a special part of the mind that is being developed by doing this type of training, and then you reach into the quantum, and there's things in that quantum that comes back, and it comes back in many different forms. It could come back as what you call a guardian angel because it is all mind anyway. And these things, these entities on the other side, they look at things, and they look at things of value that serves the light, so to speak, and they protect it. And I think had it not been for it, you may have been in a whole totally different place today. That is my opinion on it.
Oh, it definitely changed my life path.
Yep.
And yes, I would have been in, if I would have survived it, I would have been in a very different position.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have been, if you had been at all.
They came back in to see if they could scrape me up in a body bag. And my foreman, he turned white as a sheet. He didn't know what he was talking to, whether it was a ghost or whether it was actually me.
Yeah.
That's what their expectations were.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned before that I was traveling around the United States, and I think I need to say a few things about that when I was teaching this course, because I got involved. I retired early, really early in the I think it was about 85 or so, and I immediately got involved with, or pretty close to anyway, with Richard Welch, because the training that he had there fit right in with my training of hypnosis. And I went through the teacher's training, and I started teaching it. And I saw some phenomenal results with people. And one particular young kid, he came to the class on a skateboard, and he was about 17, probably 17 years old. He was so dyslexic that he couldn't hardly read at all. First thing we did was a reading test when we had them read for 5 minutes and we count the words they read. He was 3 lines down the first paragraph, and he could not remember what he read in 5 minutes. But we were doing it different than what it's done now. Now it's on the internet and it's simple. But we had classes for 4 days, and after 4 days he was reading. Well, I'm calling it reading. It's not really reading when you read as fast as you do. You just kind of scan the page, photograph the page. But he was reading with the rest of the class, 50 to 100,000 words per minute, and he scored in the 80s and the 90s on the tests that we gave him on the material that he had gone through. So he was just totally blown away. And another kid that he was a young guy, he was dyslexic too, and he didn't know what to do. So he went through and he got to reading books and he loved it, and started studying afterwards and he loved it. He remembered what he had studied. And a few years later, he called me and he says, I really don't know what to do with my life. And I told him, well, what are you interested in? And he said he liked rocks and, he liked being out in nature and doing stuff. So I got an idea. I knew a diamond cutter over in Antwerp, over in Europe, Antwerpen, if you are in Europe. And I called the guy and I said, how would you like to have an apprentice? And the guy told me, well, I don't have much use for one. He says, but if he would come, and he was the diamond cutter was a little older and he was going to be, retiring soon, and he needed someone to take it over. But if you want to come, he said, I can't pay him anything. I don't want paying him anything. So if he come and just learn the trade, and then we can see what we can do. So I talked to the kid. And his parents, they had money, so they sent him over there to work with this diamond cutter. And I didn't hear from him for a long time. I think it was 10 years afterwards. He found me again and he called and he says, I really want to thank you for setting me up with this guy over in Holland. He said, because the guy had retired and he took over the business, and I asked him how he was doing, and he says, well, he was halfway into the year, but he's already made well over close to $1 million in US dollars. And then he had a lot of clients. A lot of them were over in the Arab countries, and they came for special pieces that he cut for them, and he was doing really well. And he would never have done that because he wasn't very good. When you cut a diamond, the angle's got to be right on the stone, otherwise it is flawed. And he wouldn't be able to figure this out or do anything with it unless that he was using the stuff and the training that he got through the ZOXProTraining course. And these are just two short stories that I noticed. When I was traveling around, I got into a town and I went to the library. One time I remember I went to the library and I grabbed a stack of books, over 5 or 6 or 7 books or so, and I put them on the table there and I started going through them. And you turn pages, 2 pages a second going through the book. So you do a book pretty much in about 3 to 5 minutes. And I was sitting there doing this, and there was another guy sitting at a table next to me, and I didn't realize it, but he was studying what I was doing. And then he came over and asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm reading. And he stood there and looked at me for a while. And I think I don't remember the exact expressions on him, but I think he just shook his head and walked away. He couldn't grasp going through a book that fast and getting anything out of it. So imagine, Shannon, you probably seen things like that too. And it sounds so ridiculous, but it is real because I have done it. And I'm still doing it, actually. Does that make any sense? Yeah.
Look, the mental photography, it always surpasses reading or speed reading. It starts at 25,000 words per minute. Some people even have an issue grasping that it actually starts at 25,000 words per minute. Well, that's because it's not reading, it's using your photographic memory. Mm-hmm. Now, we can easily get up into the 50,000 words per minute, 100,000 words per minute, and faster. There's, as fast as you can turn the pages of a book, you can use this. You can use this on the computer by scrolling your screen. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously there's a method involved, and we support the product so that you understand the training and you actually get support with the training. So basically, we want everyone to be successful because everyone can do this. It's just that you've been convinced along the way that you can't do it, and it doesn't exist. And we all know what organization has done that dirty on us, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's our schooling for you. And in order to teach reading to us, which is extremely slow, extremely ineffective, and the school system is bound to teach us this, and in order to do so, they have to teach us to turn off the photographic memory, which we've used very effectively up until that time.
Yeah, kids, they already have that. They already have a photographic memory until you get up to age of maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 or something like that, when the parents tell you, oh, it's okay to forget stuff, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So because we see as kids, we see our parents forget stuff, so it's okay for me to get it too, and then we get conditioned into forgetting stuff. Is that anything that makes sense?
Well, sure it does. And the school systems like it whenever you forget, because if you forget things, that means that you're not going to be getting perfect scores on all the tests.
Yeah.
And if you don't get up perfect scores on all the tests, it justifies their position, because then it looks like they're actually teaching you something. The problem is with reading, you really hamper the person's mental ability to take information in at a very valuable rate, and you make people actually go. It's like having a big puzzle there in front of you, but you don't have any idea what it's supposed to look like at the end, and you're supposed to put all the pieces together in the puzzle, and you have no idea what it's supposed to look like. That's how reading a book actually is, and that's why it's so confusing. People that are dyslexic, they have a very definitive issue with dealing with dyslexics in school. Most dyslexics are brilliant. A quarter of our population is dyslexic, and they've found through brain research, in a very basic way of saying it, they found that the dyslexic function is like a stutter that happens within the brain. Well, if you can put the information in between those stutters, then the information sticks. It's good. Well, that's what we've been doing all along. Well, the research has only just shown this recently, and we've been doing this for over 40 years. So
Yeah,
the things that the science behind what we are doing now and what we did 40 years ago, the science is just now catching up to us, and we've been doing it all along.
yeah. I
They
remember
still
too.
don't understand how we're doing it.
Yeah, in one of the classes actually I was doing by myself in the beginning, both me and Richard was traveling for the first 3 or 4 classes that I did, but this was later when I was doing one by myself. I just wanted to do an experiment, and one of the books that we were going to do in the class, I didn't give them the book. I stood up in front and I fanned the book. So I exposed the pages to everybody in the class, but I was 20 feet away and there's no way they could normally read this, but the subconscious mind absorbed it. So I fanned the book, I think probably about 7 or 8 times to make sure I got all the pages exposed to them. And I told them to take the test on that book. And okay, now this is going to sound strange, but I don't think any one of them was below 80% on the test. They were 80 to 95% there were about probably 18, 20 people in the class. And when they were told what the scores were afterward, they just sat there and looked at each other. They couldn't hardly believe what they just did. Just from me fanning the book, they not seeing a thing what was in it, the subconscious mind absorbed it, and they were able to pass the test. And I know if Richard had found found out that I did this, he probably would have scolded me because it was not part of the program. And it was an experiment that I just had to do it because I figured they could, and they actually did. And have you done anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute.
Look,
We're down at the
what?
bottom of the hour here. I'm sorry. Let's go to a break, and then we'll come back and we'll mention just. We'll go into another area also. We're going to talk about how this can be used in other fashions and other areas of our life, like maybe health. There is great advantages here that can be used for health and other things. So let's go to break now, and then we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
The rising rate of autism is not just concerning, it's a disaster. No matter what the cause of it is something that everyone should be acutely aware of and actively helping out those in the community that have it. That is why Adventures in Autism was created. Adventures in Autism is a show inspired by our life with our son Seth and the many experiences his autism has brought to our lives. Each episode we bring you the topic of the week, news about autism, and resources to help you and your family or friends out in their own adventures with autism. Tune in Mondays at noon and midnight on lnmradionetwork.com or openeyesnetwork.com and get involved in the community. Let our experiences be an inspiration to you.
Attention L&M Radio Network listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the L&M Radio Network by calling 605-562-4203? No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 605-562-4203 to listen to the L&M Radio Network on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall. The Late Night in the Midlands radio network is deeply devoted to you, the listener. We feel it is necessary to bring you all of the information that you can use in your life. Each and every day you will find something to listen to here, and whether you come away from the shows informed, inspired, or entertained, it is our passion. We don't bow to corporations, and we don't have handlers to tell us what not to talk about. We bring you everything. Late Night in the Midlands, however, is fully listener supported. We need your help to stay on the air and to make sure that we get the bills paid. We need your help to keep the truth alive. If you feel that you have gotten anything out of Late Night in the Midlands, we would appreciate your support. You can become a subscriber and help us out on a monthly basis, or if you'd like, a one-time donation is fully appreciated as well. Every year, the average household in America spends over $3,000 on entertainment alone. If you could help us with just a tiny fraction of that amount, you would make all of the difference. Go to latenightinthemidlands.com and click on the subscribe button. Thank you, and as always, keep yourself informed.
Hello again. We are back with the Universal Consciousness Show, and we are talking with Shannon Panzo, Dr. Shannon Panzo, and he is in Australia. He is teaching the ZOXProTraining Mind Development course. And I said something right before the break, and we just had to go to break, so we will continue with that. But you got to also remember, folks, that what I did 25, 30 years ago, that is a little different because we were running classes, and it has evolved. The course has evolved now. It's been simplified. It's simpler, and it may be a little different than what we did back then. So what I would rather have you do is actually listening to Shannon on what is going on with that. I think you also, Shannon, had a video. I think it's a 3-minute video that you wanted to show. Should we do that now, or do you think?
Okay. Well, to address the one point that you just made, basically, our trainings are made to deal with people's belief systems. It is critical that people adjust their belief systems, and with the mental photography, it's already in the realm of unbelievable for many people, so they need to be working with that. So we deal with that, and to just flash a book, which is perfectly viable once people are believing, but to just flash a whole book is a little bit excessive to start with. So we bring it back a notch to allow people to deal with their belief systems, and along the way they can learn to do that as well. Now, with regards to the video upcoming, this is a very typical person that is using the ZOXPro, the mental photography. Now, he talks about mental photography. He doesn't talk about ZOXPro. He's a ZOXPro client. And he's looking to basically, he is your typical ZOXPro person when you do the exercises every day and you take it on board to do these things. Amazing things can happen, and this is what this video shows. Okay, play the video.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Ted Valley, and if you found your way to this page, it means you're interested in mental photography. It doesn't matter how you got here. All that matters is that now you're here. To lead in, I'm going to start with my credentials. I hold a doctorate in chiropractic. I have many professional certifications, totaling over 400 hours that I achieved while in chiropractic school. I also worked part-time, 20 plus hours a week, while in attendance. How is that possible? This is a medical program, you might ask. Well, mental photography is how it's possible. I went from studying 30 plus hours a week, as you're supposed to as a graduate student, down to 2 to 5 hours a week. Doesn't seem like it's possible, but if you pursue the program and you follow the instructions, it's more than possible. It's impressive, really. Before chiropractic school, I had a bachelor's degree in health sciences, pre-med, and I always considered myself to be a very passionate student, a good student. But mental photography made me a great student. It was more of a life-changing experience than what I can even describe. So if you will join me, let me take you on a little bit of a journey of what mental photography can do for you. All right. Now, we talked a little bit about me. Now let me tell you a little bit about what mental photography is and how it can help. So I'm sure that you get stressed. Whether it's for work, you got a lot of papers to go through, you got deadlines to meet, you don't know how you're going to get through all the information that you need. Or maybe you're a student, and like me, you had to really figure out how to get all the information that you need in your head. Well, that's where mental photography comes in. Again, as I stated earlier, I spent 30 plus hours a week, like a good student, and I was still failing classes. It didn't seem like I was doing anything wrong, but still I wasn't reaping the rewards. And then mental photography came in. I searched the internet far and wide trying to find that one thing that was really going to change my life for the better and get me through the program that I needed. Turns out, mental photography was it. If you implement the procedures as they're shown and you follow the directions through the program, there's no way you can fail. You go from studying 30 plus hours a week to a fraction of that, 2 to 5 hours. How much better would your life be? How much more time could you spend with your family? How much more fun could you have in life if you didn't have to focus so hard on your studies? For me, being able to spend more time with my wife changed our relationship for the better. Nothing could have changed my life more than having the ability to spend time with her, because she, outside of my education, is what matters most to me. My family is paramount, as I'm sure it is for you. Everyone has different goals, everyone has different passions. Mental photography allows you to pursue those while achieving whatever your goals are. Whether it be academic, whether it be business, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that mental photography will change your life, hands down, for sure. Yes, I was able to master material that otherwise would have taken me years to master in a matter of days. Doesn't seem real, I know. Doesn't seem possible, I get it. But in reality, if you follow the program, it is possible. I'm Dr. Ted Valley.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for playing that. Look, people not only have the mental photography going on, but the mental photography and what it does in the brain enables us to do absolutely phenomenal things in so many different directions. The mental photography is the world's greatest brain exercise. It triggers things to happen that nothing else will accomplish. And this is what there's a term, it's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity happens every day of your life, but it's a very slow, very progressive process. It really doesn't make a bunch of changes to set a bunch of changes in place for you. But the mental photography is so dynamic that it actually triggers the neuroplasticity to go into overdrive. This is what enables us to really build within the brain and allow us to do so many more things. When you strengthen the brain, you strengthen the resilience of your body. You strengthen the commitment that you have to be a healthy, organized person, and you can do anything better simply by using the mental photography. It's a byproduct of the mental photography. Your memory will automatically get better. So there's all different sorts of things that are going to be happening to the people that undertake mental photography. It's not just for information. It's holistic. It's for whole life living.
Yeah, there is that word holistic. Maybe we should touch on what it can do for health also. And I know I have studied a man that he broke his neck actually, and Dr. Dispenza in I think it was 9 months after breaking his neck, and the central nerve in the spinal cord was broken. He put it together by thinking himself well, and he was back to work in 9 months without surgery or anything. So this is some of the things that is possible, because once we start understanding what the mind is and what it can do, and like you mentioned, neuroplasticity will suffice for some of these things. And maybe you talk a little bit about how this will interact with what you're teaching.
Well, people often have problems in all various parts of their life, including health. And once you actually tune up the brain and start making it work better, then when it comes to your health, you can actually address this from the mind first. See, whenever you're dealing with the mind, and especially with healing, you have to trust your mind to provide you results. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. But as you're increasing your strength and resilience with your mind, with the mental photography and the other techniques that we teach you, what happens is you develop a sense of confidence, a sense of willpower, and you can actually apply this to making your health better. And we've seen people heal bone in record-breaking time. We have seen people heal themselves from cancer and any other malady you can think of, things that are supposedly incurable, and these people are doing it. So we've seen it all. Basically, miracles happen every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is not just something that might happen. It very well will happen if you follow the directives that you can impose on the mind. What I was talking about, I know I'm using old material here in some of my explanations because that's what I did 20 some years ago. But what we're doing is actually, what we were doing at least, is that we're developing a channel into the subconscious and beyond that. And that through that channel, we get a two-way flow of information going back and forth, so we can access what is in the subconscious in a different way than what we do just normally walking around. And this channel, the more we practice it, it can become very active. So we can get a lot of these subconscious hunches like you had during that explosion. And we reach into a part of the quantum where that information is that the subconscious mind may not even have. Am I onto something there?
Augie, are you trying to get me to say universal consciousness? That this might have something to do with universal consciousness?
That's my favorite word.
You're spot on. You're right. Okay. Look, once you're working with the brain, you're developing your subconscious. You're also strengthening the connection between you and the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
Okay. There's many different ways to talk about it. There's many different ways to say it. Okay. Universal consciousness basically is your connection with God, and with the rest of the universe, however you want to put it. And it's a matter of you doing what you need to do to get there. People that strengthen their brain this way find it much easier to communicate and have their needs met. The law of attraction is simply using universal consciousness to open up those doors. Our people don't have nearly the issues that other people have when it comes to attracting good things in their lives, simply because they've created the flow within the brain. That flow within the brain goes through the subconscious, reaches out into the universe, and opens those doors. And it's amazing what doors it'll open. Seemingly impossible tasks become child's play. So again, there are so many different ways that this can be used. We go over the basics, but we really do encourage people to go into things further and further with this. Now, that's just with the ZOXPro training. It is a full system, and it allows people to get results from that system. And from that point, we actually have step-ups from there, which basically bring in more tools and more elaborate ways of doing things, so that people gain more access, and basically making it easier for people to use those same tools. But ZOXPro training is really good because, again, it is actually geared for people to get results with. Mm-hmm. Whenever people want to really take the step up, well, then on a limited basis, I actually coach people, and it's on an extended basis. And this is actually the only time where I deal with people directly and coach, nurse, mentor them to get through certain difficulties in their lives. That in itself is priceless. You cannot put a price tag on it. And it gives me great pleasure in doing so, but I can only do it on a very limited basis, simply because once the slots are filled, these are basically I'm working one-on-one with people, so I don't have a lot of time to do that. Okay, anyhow, so again, it all starts with the mental photography.
Yeah. And I have for a very long time, I've been telling people that meditation is basically the gateway to higher consciousness. But what I haven't been saying is that there is another way, because subliminal photography and what you're teaching, it reaches into the brain, but not in the same place where meditation would lead you, even though it gets some of the same results, but it's a different avenue and probably a simpler avenue to get there. Would that make any sense? Because this is not meditation, what you're talking about, but it gets you in. Yeah.
The mental photography gears up your brain. The meditation is actually, if you want to steer a car, okay, the meditation is your guidance system on you making the gains that you want to see happen in your life. Okay. Miracles, I expect miracles to happen every day. Once you understand the nature of this thing, you would tend to expect it as well. The things that you are doing today would pale in comparison to what you can do tomorrow by using this same structure. And it's easy. It's actually too easy. People can't even believe how easy it is. In fact, that's one of the remarks that people make is, it's too easy. Why isn't everyone doing this? Well, that's a good question. Why isn't? And it's because we've been sold down the river. Yeah. We've been taught that these things aren't possible. Yes, they are. And we do it every day. We don't even recognize most of them. Go ahead.
Actually, it was offered. Richard told me the story. It was offered to the school system in Phoenix, Arizona, and back in the early, I think, 1980s. And he said he went into the principal of one school and he says, give me about 5 or 7 of your most fledgling students, and I'll keep them for a week and I'll send them back. And I'll guarantee you there'll be quite a bit better students. So he got them for a week's course. And these were DNF students. And after that week, they jumped right to A and B students when they came back. And the principal that he was dealing with, he told them, that is wonderful. He says, we'll consider this. Don't call us because we will call you. And he never heard from them. Do you recognize this story that he may have told you too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The results were, the results were published after the fact in the local newspaper there. This happened in Nebraska, and the problem is there's different echelons of the school system, and the school system runs scared of what this will actually do there. That's why often people will ask me, well, how come this isn't in the school systems where we need it? Because they fear it.
Yeah.
It's going to take people and turn them into geniuses way too fast, and they can't cope with it. They can't cope with that. Their system is stale. Kids can't learn. There's 30, 40, 50 kids in a class. It's just a heyday in there. Forget it. It doesn't work. Well, this could turn everything around, and they don't want it. It has such a dynamic effect. You can have children by the age of 11 and 12 having their first bachelor degree and going for their second. Yeah. By the time they're 16, they could have doctorates. Well, we can't have a bunch of doctorates running around at 16. What are we going to do with all these kids, that are really super intelligent? Well, they're the leaders of the future, aren't they? Well, can't have that. So there's so many different implications. It's a terrible thing. there's a slogan. A mind is a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, that's all I see out there, for the most part, is how wasteful people are with their mind, and that's been a slogan for a long time for some organizations. But the point is nothing's being done to improve it from the from the government, the educational, the public systems, what have you. Nothing's really being done to improve it. All they are is Band-Aid effects.
Yeah, it's jobs program.
Right.
Yeah. But I think once people start understanding what the mind and the brain, they're not the same thing, and they interact with each other, then they can also start developing techniques, and slowing down the brainwave pattern is very important. I think that's also probably what's happening here. If you get it down into the bottom of the alpha range, which is a technique that we used to teach them, and I imagine you still do that. And when we do that, that's when we develop this two-way flow of information into the subconscious mind and beyond. And maybe the alpha range of brainwave pattern is a key here still, is it?
Well, the alpha is still used today in our system because, one, it's the easiest state of consciousness to actually use, and it's also the state of consciousness which is used for learning. And whenever you're in alpha, you're learning better. And if you go into other states of consciousness, there's a considerable amount of excess training, maybe even years of training in order to become good at it. So when it comes to alpha, it's very easy to get in there. It's like you're daydreaming. Okay, if you've ever daydreamed in life, well, you were in the state of alpha. Well, It's similar to that because that's the same state of mind. And again, you're directing your intent to make a difference, make the positive difference, and the sky's the limit, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, would you let us know where they can get a hold of you, and mention that on the air here also, so we can see how they can contact you?
Oh yeah. Look, the best place to find out more information is actually at ZOXPro.com. That's ZOXPro.com. And also, if you need to email me, you can email me directly at brainy@ZOXPro.com. That's BRAINY at ZOXPro.com. And if you are emailing me and you listen to this show, make sure that you make mention of that in your email to me, because that'll allow us to know what specific information you've received up until this time. And look, we invite you to bring your intelligence along to add to this. There's so many different possibilities for people. Everything that you want to do in life first begins in your brain. That must be paramount to tune up. Once you've done that, then everything else becomes possible and can happen. Until you do that, it's not going to happen. And you've already experienced these things. You've already seen it for yourself. You've given up. Well, stop giving up. There is actually a way to do these things.
Absolutely. Well, I can see we're getting down to the end of the show here. And now, for those of you that is sitting out there now and thinking about this, if you're going to school and know somebody that's going to school, I don't endorse. I only think I don't think I've ever done it, but I actually, because I have been doing this myself for the last 20 some years, I know what it can do, and that's what I do. And if you look at my bio, you have an idea of what I have done too. And I know I would not have done many of the things that I have done had it not been for this course. So that's what I'm saying when I endorse it, because I know what it can do. So Shannon, thank you very much for being with us. It was interesting as always. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and then we will be back next week and we will talk to you again. In the meantime, take care of each other.